The gas prices in the US are soaring high. Christine Lagarde made very clear that interest hikes may not have reached the ceiling yet and they're going to remain high for long. However, traders do not agree with her. Good news for Ukraine. The grains of Ukraine are allowed now to cross via land into Europe. Bad news for Russia. Russians are not allowed to cross by land to Finland or to the EU. And on the crypto front, Deutsche Bank may be embracing cryptocurrencies. There was a transaction in BTC where the sender sent more than $500,000 or paid more than $500,000 in fees. Guess what? The Bitcoin miner that received those fees sent the fees back to the rightful owner. These and a few more things are the things we're going to be discussing in today's video. So as usual, we're going to begin with Bloomberg. And the main headline in Bloomberg today is the fact that the EU ended the Ukraine crop import ban, which means now the Ukraine grains can come into Europe. Let's look at that. The EU and the Ukraine crop import ban, of course, heightening trade tensions. We have here the bloc will allow the measure, which applies to Poland, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, and Slovakia, to expire as scheduled on Friday. So as of Friday, yesterday, the grain ban has been expired. Now, in my view, this is because of the extra alliance between Vladimir Putin and North Korea. As that alliance strengthens Russia, puts Russia in a better position, Europe and the West are looking for ways to hurt Russia or to make Ukraine more strong. And of course, allowing the grains from Ukraine to come to Europe will increase the trade. Ukraine is going to have more money, and of course that will make Ukraine stronger. And I think the more steps that Russia takes to become stronger, the more motivation there will be in Europe to help Ukraine or to do whatever it takes to make Ukraine stronger. However, I don't think they're going to be able to supply artillery and weapons to Ukraine indefinitely. But the trade is something that will hurt the market for a little bit, at least in those countries, but it is helpful to Ukraine. Now, the good news for Ukraine, of course, was the grain, and now bad news to Russia is that Finland will stop most Russians' attempts to cross the border between the two countries by car, implementing European Union trade sanctions. You can see here, starting at midnight, cars registered in Russia can only be brought into Finland if they belong to European Union nationals or permanent residents in Russia, or to diplomats or people arriving on humanitarian grounds. This, of course, is another way in which Europe will be hurting Russia or making life a bit more difficult for Vladimir Putin, because if his population cannot cross the border, that will put negative pressure to Vladimir Putin within Russia. At least that's my view. What is your view? Please let me know in the comments below. Now, another thing I want to share with you is how Christine Lagarde made very clear that the hikes are not at the peak yet and they may remain high for long. Listen to this.
I stand by what I said and I wrote in Sintra. And we are not either saying that we are now at peak. I think the sentence that I read is really the critical one. With today's decision, we have made sufficient contributions under current assessment to returning inflation to target in a timely manner. And as I said, both elements matter: the level, sufficiently restrictive, and the duration. But it's obvious that the focus is probably going to move a bit more to the duration, but it is not to say, because we can't say that now, that we are at peak.
So I think she made very clear that she's willing, just like Jerome Powell, to keep interest rates high in Europe, and she's, of course, according to this, determined to increase rates if necessary. However, the market seems to be in disagreement with her. We can see here, traders bet that ECB cuts are coming despite Lagarde's pushback. Now, I know the same thing happened with the Federal Reserve. Jerome Powell made very clear that he will keep interest rates as high as it has to be for as long as it has to be, and the market did not agree with him. It took a long time for the market, the traders, to see that Jerome Powell was serious. And I think now in Europe the same thing is happening. The market is challenging, or not believing that Christine Lagarde would have what is required to keep the interest rates high and push them higher if needed to be. My bet is she has no option, because if she doesn't do it, the depreciation of the euro is going to occur. And we have had that in the past. I think when the Federal Reserve was increasing the interest rates, the euro came 1-to-1 to the dollar. But I think Christine Lagarde does not have another option. She has to increase the rates because the US dollar is the unit of account of the world. And if the US dollar push their rates high, other central banks have to follow suit. Now, talking about the Federal Reserve pushing the rates higher, there's a lot more fuel to inflation. Gasoline prices are going up in the US, and according to this article, it is reaching the seasonal record. You can see here, gasoline prices have surged to a record high for this time of the year in the US. Of course, jeopardizing the fight against inflation that dodged President Joe Biden. I think Biden is going to have really a problematic campaign, because if interest rates go higher, there's a risk that the US would enter in recession. And if the US enters in recession, it's going to be hard for Biden to win or to have a positive campaign. We can see here, top analysts from International Energy Agency and Organization of Petroleum exporting countries have warned of crude market deficit to the end of 2023, underpinning by the extension of production curbs by Saudi Arabia and Russia. Now, we live in a world where everyone wants to demonize petrol. Oh, petrol is horrible. Oh, more emissions CO2. However, whenever the OPEC countries cut down their productivity, the world panic. Now, Biden, I need to give it to him. He has kind of honored his promise. Look what Biden thinks of petrol.
But kiddo, I want you to just take a look, okay? You don't have to agree. But I want you to look in my eyes. I guarantee you, we're going to end fossil fuel, and I am not going to cooperate.
Now, of course, if you intend to end fossil fuels, that means less petroleum needs to be produced. But look what happened. The average regular gasoline costs now $3.86 per gallon. That means that the prices have risen by 7.8% just in 8 weeks. And I have made a video here when the OPEC countries decide to cut the productivity, Russia included, and I remember mentioning that is more inflationary fuel for energy prices and deflationary pressure for assets. And of course, it's not just on that video. You can see here, Biden's political rivals have seized on high pump prices, which means those who are opposing the political party that is opposing Biden, they're of course using this increase on the gas prices to of course criticize Biden on his climate policies. Now, the entire world pretty much is going on a direction of demonization of petrol. Now, you cannot demonize petrol if you don't have a better replacement ready to go. A lot of people are betting that the replacement will be green energy. I'm preparing a video on green energy. Please subscribe if you want to find out my thoughts on the green energy. And also, I will be making another video on what I believe will be the replacement of petrol. I don't think it will be the green energy. I'm betting on nuclear. At least that's my view. What is your view? Please let me know in the comments below. The price of gasoline going up is not the only thing that the Republicans have against Biden. As you guys can see here, the workers of the automobile industry are also on strike. Almost 13,000 workers went on a strike. And the thing is, if they are on a strike, that means less automobiles being produced in the US. And if there's a shortage of supply, guess what? The prices will go up, which to me, in my view, it is great news for Xi Jinping, because after all, if the prices of the automobile industry go up in America, that is good news for Xi Jinping because his automobile has more competitive prices. And the thing is, the workers are asking for 40% salary increase plus benefits. The industry, the owners of the factories has agreed to 20% increase, but of course, the workers want 40%. That means we are far from an agreement between those workers. And I think this is also bad news for Jerome Powell and for the market, because if the price of automobiles are going up, that means more inflation, and more inflation means more hikes, which means more deflationary pressure on crypto assets. And to add fuel to the fire, Bernie Sanders says that we are fighting a waging fight against the corporate greed. It is not corporate greed, it is competitive. The market must be competitive. And if the industry is paying more to the workers, I don't see how they can remain competitive. At least that's my view. What is your view? Please let me know on the comments below. And there's another bad news to Vladimir Putin. And the bad news is that Kadyrov, the head of Chechnya, seems to be in a critical condition according to Ukrainian intelligence. Now, of course, these are Ukrainian reporting. I still don't have the confirmation. This is, of course, just headlines. If I find confirmation, I'm gonna let you guys know that it's confirmed by my next video. But I feel like sharing this with you guys. If this is true, if he is in coma or if he's ill, and if he dies, Vladimir Putin may have a problem. And what is that problem? The problem is he's a very good ally of Vladimir Putin, and he's the leader of the Muslim group of Chechnya, which is surrounded by Orthodox Christian Russians. Now, if he dies, who will replace him? Who will take his position? I don't think his kids will take the position. And even if they do, look at their age. Last year they were 14, 15, 16, which means by this year they should be at best 15, 16, and 17 years of age. When you are 17, I don't think you have what is required to keep the Muslims within Russia in harmony. Remember, he's the leader and has been very little conflict because of his alliance with Putin. And of course, Vladimir Putin is paying him to keep that peace. However, it doesn't mean the animosity between Muslims and Orthodox Christians are not there. So if he dies, I think that is bad news for Vladimir Putin because he may have to deal with a conflict within Russia. But Ukraine also has some bad news. And the bad news for Ukraine is that the Military Committee in Chief's Defense of NATO will be meeting today and tomorrow in Norway. Now, I'm not sure what they're going to be discussing, but I have an idea and a hint. This is me speculating, but I think this is bad news for Zelensky. And the bad news is the following. The Norway's Chief of Defense acknowledged critical shortage of ammunition. And you can see here on his words, NATO's stockpile of ammunition and missiles remains at critical low levels. We have had many headlines through the war that they are at low levels. Since February, pretty much every month, there are reports of low level of ammunition. And all alliance members are aware of this. Of course, the world is aware of this. Now, the Norwegian Chief of Defense General, Erik Christophen, say this and a bit more. Now, the war has been going for more than 18 months. I think it's happening too slowly. And I think here he's mentioning about the counteroffensive of Ukraine. We know that Ukraine needs support, but we also know that NATO countries need to increase their stockpiles. The demand is great, of course, I agree with that, but the possibilities to realize are small. And he said even more. He complained that the military cannot order the industry to increase ammunition production. In his opinion, NATO countries will not be able to wage full-scale war even for 40 days. So according to him, NATO doesn't have more than 40 days of ammunition to supply to Ukraine. And I think this is very bad news for Zelensky. So we are in a stage in war where there are some bad news for Vladimir Putin, but there are also some bad news to Ukraine. Also, there's some good news in terms of ammunition for Vladimir Putin. It's not official, but I'm speculating that he got a deal with North Korea. So in terms of ammunition, Russia may be better prepared for this conflict than Ukraine, even with the help of NATO. Now, that was on geopolitics and traditional market. But one headline from Bloomberg that I want to share with you guys is Deutsche Bank links with Swiss crypto firm for custody services. That means that Deutsche Bank is one step closer to launching a digital assets custody service after finalizing the deal with Swiss crypto technology firm Taurus SA. So I feel this is a very good move for Europe. As the US is declaring war on crypto, it seems like at least the Deutsche Bank in Germany is embracing crypto. If the banking system embraces crypto, that means they'll be prepared for the CBDCs, because if CBDCs get launched, there's no place for commercial banks on the industry. I think it's a very clever move from the Deutsche Bank. Those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Please let me know on the comments below. And another event which I find very positive on the crypto front is the fact that a miner returned over $500,000 in a BTC transaction fee overpayment to Paxos. What happened is Paxos made a transaction and they miscalculate their fee, where the miner got over $500,000. Now, the thing is, all transactions in the crypto space, at least in proof of work, they are irreversible, meaning this miner did not have to return the funds to Paxos. But I find it very beautiful to show that in the crypto space, if someone makes a mistake of this magnitude, miners will act ethically. I think it's a very ethical move from the miner. Other miners do not agree, but I do agree with the decision of this guy. You can see here a Bitcoin BTC miner who received 19.8 Bitcoin in fees for a blockchain infrastructure firm, Paxos, has returned the funds after he claimed the company made a mistake in paying over $500,000 in fees. Other miners did not agree. Other miners wanted him to take $500,000 and distribute among the miners, especially now that the energy cost is going up. Miners are having struggle to make their business profitable as Bitcoin prices go down and the cost of energy goes up. However, the advice from the rest of the miners doesn't appear to have been taken by this particular miner. I think what he did sends a very good signal to the market. It shows that Bitcoin miners are reputable people, are honest people, and I think this, in my view, is a positive step. What is your view? Please let me know in the comments below. And with this, I wrap up this video. Now please, if you did like this video, do like, subscribe, click the notification bell, and also share this video with someone who you know who may benefit from this content. This is it for now. See you guys in the next video.